What's going on? Why are the USA dumping millions and millions of flies in Panama? Well, these flies are not ordinary. They attack and kill livestock and can even infect humans. In the USA, there are factories dedicated to breeding these flies. And interestingly, other countries accept this practice without objection. Are they afraid to complain, or do they not even know about it? Let's start from the beginning. Decades ago, farmers in the United States faced a terrible problem. Their livestock were being attacked by a tiny but deadly enemy, the screwworm fly. This insect, known scientifically as Cochleomya hominivora, is not a simple pest. It is a voracious parasite that feeds on living flesh. Females of this species lay their eggs in open wounds of warm-blooded animals. When the larvae hatch, they begin to feed on the surrounding flesh, causing excruciating pain and often leading the animal to death. The damage to farmers was enormous, reaching millions of dollars per year. But the problem was not limited to livestock. These flies do not discriminate. Any warm-blooded animal serves as a target. This included deer, squirrels, pets, and in rare cases, even humans. The situation was so severe that something had to be done. It was then that scientists from the United States Department of Agriculture had a brilliant idea. And this is where our story gets really interesting. Researchers discovered that female screwworm flies mate only once in their lifetime. If this mating was with a sterile male, she would not produce offspring. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But the brilliance lies in the details. The idea was to breed male flies in the laboratory, sterilize them, and then release them into the wild. These sterile males would compete with wild males for mating. The more females mated with sterile males, the fewer fertile eggs would be produced. Over time, fly population would decrease until it disappeared. Currently, the factory that produces these flies in Panama is located in a former sugarcane plantation, about 30 kilometers east of the country's capital. Unlike the original feeding scheme, the larvae now do not receive raw meat, but they still need animal protein. The current diet is a more economical mixture of powdered blood, milk, and eggs, thickened with cellulose. When this mixture is dumped on the larvae, it looks like sewage, but the insects don't seem to mind. The facility operates 24 hours a day with 115 employees producing 20 million flies per week. These flies grow in a windowless concrete maze, with each room adjusted in temperature and humidity for different stages of development. The larvae hatch in a room heated to 39 degrees Celsius, simulating the body temperature of an infected animal. After hatching, they are moved to cooler rooms where they feed and transform into pupae. A modified industrial machine dumps 15 ounces of larvae at a time into aluminum trays, which are stacked in piles of about 50 units. 2 days later, fully developed flies appear and are moved to a cold room where they enter a dormant state. They look dead, but they are actually just sleeping. The sleepy flies are placed in a metal box the size of a washing machine and loaded onto a plane. The journey continues. It's time to release the flies at the designated location. A small turboprop airplane loaded with 2 million flies, one of the many former military planes, now spreads these deadly insects. Equipped with a constantly rotating dispersion machine, these planes release the flies from the bottom. If this sounds low-tech, know that previously, a technician did this manually, throwing small cardboard boxes filled with flies from the plane. Sometimes, the boxes wouldn't break upon hitting the ground, and the flies would die inside them. Things are more advanced now. Plane flies low, at a maximum of 450 meters, so the flies only need to wake up and fly. They awaken with the warmth, spread out in all directions, and take over the territory. Plan was audacious, but it worked. Starting with small islands and gradually moving forward, scientists managed to eliminate the screwworm fly from the United States, then Mexico, and finally all of Central America. But here's the crucial detail. Keep this area free of the flies, a barrier needed to be created. And that's where Panama comes in. But before we continue, are you subscribed to this channel? If not, I invite you now to subscribe and gain access to the greatest curiosities of our world. Now that you're subscribed, let's continue. The Isthmus of Panama, that narrow strip of land connecting Central America to South America, became the perfect place to establish this barrier. It is much easier and more economical to maintain a barrier in this narrow region than along the entire border between the United States and Mexico. And that's why, every week, planes take off loaded with sterile flies. These flies are bred in a special facility in Panama, a true insect factory that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is a windowless building, with rooms maintained at specific temperatures and humidities for each stage of fly development. The larvae hatch in a room heated to 39 degrees Celsius, simulating the body temperature of an animal. They are then transferred to cooler rooms where they feed and transform. But why all this effort? Why not simply exterminate all the flies once and for all? The answer lies in the vastness of South America. Screwworm flies still exist throughout the entire continent. Completely eliminating them would be an almost impossible task, requiring the cooperation of all countries, an astronomical number of fly factories, airplanes, and financial resources. It is simply impractical. So the solution found was to create this barrier in Panama. It's like an invisible line that prevents the flies from the south from advancing northward. And to maintain this barrier, constant and meticulous work is necessary. In addition to the planes that release the sterile flies, there is a team of inspectors who travel thousands of kilometers by motorcycle, boat, and even horseback, looking for signs of infestation north of the barrier. It is arduous and meticulous work, as a single mistake could undo decades of effort. Cost of this program is not small, around $15 million per year, but the benefits far outweigh this amount. It is estimated that the absence of the screwworm fly saves agriculture about $796 million annually. It's an investment that pays for itself many times over. But this story is not just about economic. It is also about alleviating animal suffering. Screwworm infestations are extremely painful and often fatal. By eliminating this threat, we are protecting not only livestock, but also wild and domestic animals. A dramatic example of what can happen if the barrier fails occurred in 2016 in the Florida Keys. Suddenly, deer in the region began showing horrible wounds, with bones exposed on their heads. It was the screwworm fly in action. Fortunately, the outbreak was quickly controlled with the release of sterile flies, but it served as a stark reminder of what is at stake. And there are lessons here that can be applied to other challenges. The idea of using sterile insects to control pests is being studied to combat disease-carrying mosquitoes, such as those that transmit dengue and malaria. Who knows, in the future, we might use similar techniques to tackle other threats to human and animal health. The next time you hear the buzz of a fly, remember, somewhere in Panama, scientists and technicians are working tirelessly to maintain an invisible barrier that protects millions of animals and sustains a billion-dollar industry. And who knows, maybe one day, with continuous effort and international cooperation, we can see a world entirely free from the threat of the screwworm fly. Until then, planes will continue to fly, releasing their unusual cargo over the forests of Panama, maintaining a silent but vital battle for animal health and agricultural prosperity. I have an invitation for you. Do you see this video appearing on the screen now? I picked it especially for you, so go watch it right now. Well, that's it, and see you next time. Curious one.